Good morning, New Jersey. We all woke up this morning wondering who will be our next governor. And it's become clear very quickly that we won't have an answer for quite a while. As of 9:56 this morning, Governor Phil Murphy was leading Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli by just 1,408 votes, but 158 of the state's 6,348 voting districts had still not been counted. So what's next? We are joined by Matthew Hale, who is an associate professor in the Department of Political Science and Public Affairs at Seton Hall University. So he's here to walk us through what happens next. Matt, thanks for joining us. Where do we go from here?
Well, thanks for having me. So the process right now is that each county is going to start collecting and counting the vote by mail that have come in. The last count I saw is there's about 500,000 vote by mails overall. So that's a pretty sizable number. And some of those have probably been counted, but they're going to continue to count those vote by mails. And then they also have to count provisional ballots. And both of those take longer than electronics. So the vote by mail, you have to look at it, make sure that the signatures are in the right place, make sure that that they're correctly labeled. And provisional ballots, you have to really check. So those are going to be sort of hand counted. And that can take a while. It'll vary county by county, but the next step is to count and record the vote by mails and the provisional ballots.
How long do they have to count those ballots?
As long as they want, as long as it takes. It's, the goal isn't, we all want to know. We wanted to get to the finish line as fast as possible, but all the county election officials want to get it right. That's their focus. And so they'll take as long as they need to get it done.
There is no deadline for them. They'll just...
Correct.
Okay. Do you think, in your opinion, will there be a recount?
So New Jersey actually has a pretty open recount. Anybody can say any candidate can say they want to have a recount, and they have to do it within 17 days after the vote total is confirmed. There's no specific magic number. Like there's no automatic recount. It has to be requested, and it can be requested by either candidate under any circumstances. It can even be requested by a group of voters who want to try and have a recount as well. In a particular voting area. So my guess is that if it ends up exactly where it is right now, yes, we'll have a recount. But if it expands a bit, maybe not. We'll have to see. Do
you think that request might come quite soon based on the numbers that we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that that if it ends up being, within 1,000 or 2,000 votes, I would imagine the loser would make that request as soon as they are able.
So when was the last time a governor race in New Jersey was this close?
So my memory is that the last is about 1981. Close election back then. It took almost a month for folks to figure it out, but we could be in for quite a while. The electorate is. We have two camps. There's the left and the right, and it's very evenly split. New Jersey is a Democratic state. New Jersey is increasingly a Democratic state, and it's but here we are. We're still their staff members. Others will release them as they happen. And so we may see different changes in an Essex County and then something different in Hunterdon County. And county, it's at the county level where election decisions are made, and they're made by county elected officials. And that's how you get the differences in how things are done.
In terms of counting ballots, so let's hit on this again. What's happening today? What's happening the rest of the week?
So what'll happen is the county officials will convene ballot counters. They'll convene people who are going to sit down, and they're going to open up whatever VBM, vote by mail applications are still left. They're going to open those up. There's places for those of folks who don't vote by mail. There's actually two places that you have to sign on the ballot. And so you have to make sure that their signatures match on both of those places. So someone has to look at both of those signatures. So there'll be a county worker who will do that. And then those ballots will be read and scanned and counted. But again, it's going to depend on, some counties probably have opened, most of the VBMs. Others are opening them right now, and it's sort of that's again where you're going to see some of this flexibility. But really, what you're going to see is counting, and I say we're going to count and we'll release it when we're done. So it really can depend. Most important thing is getting it right, not getting it fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think this could take, I mean, you mentioned 81 taking, I think you said 26 days, almost a month for that race to be called. Could this go that long?
I don't think so. I think we're going to know sooner rather than later. I tend to think that when you look at where the outstanding votes are right now, I think what people should expect is that if the vote totals in the remaining ballots stay exactly as they have been throughout the state, you'll see Phil Murphy's lead continue to grow, because the places that are uncounted, the places that there are more ballots and more people, are places that Phil Murphy tends to win and win by sizable margins. Democrats can run up. Last time, all gave Phil Murphy at least 70% of the vote. And they're big counties. There are lots of people, and there's lots of Democrats, and that's so out of the out of the 300,000 votes that Murphy won by last time, 250,000 of them were in those 4 counties. I looked this morning, and they're not all in yet, but Murphy underperformed in all of those counties by between 5 to 8 percentage points. So in those counties where all the Democratic votes were, they just didn't come out in the same numbers, and they didn't come out in the same margins for Phil Murphy to win big. So in Hudson County, last time he had 80% of the vote. This time he had 72% of the vote. So he still won them. It's just those margins weren't as big.
And of course, this election was so different, right, from others because of how people voted, early voting, in-person voting. Can you just walk us through all the different ways people were able to cast their vote in this race?
Absolutely. This was the first time that we've had early voting, early on in-person voting. And this was the first time that we over the last couple elections, particularly the last one that was happening in the middle of COVID in 2016 last year. There's been a huge increase in vote by mail. I said one of the things that we're waiting on is a lot of the vote by mails. The Democratic Party is much more successful in New Jersey than the Republican Party in getting people to vote by mail. They have a much more sophisticated operation to get people to vote by mail. And so a lot of the vote by mails that are coming in are going to be Democrats. And so all of those different moving pieces make the count more difficult than if you have one machine and one type and there's only one thing to do. Now you have different procedures that you have to make sure you're following throughout the early voting, throughout the vote by mail, throughout the day of voting. And remember, your ballot has to be in by the 8th. That means there's still going to be ballots that are probably going to get there today or tomorrow, which are still going to get counted, but those will be at the tail end of things. So
we'll see how this shakes out. I mean, if Murphy wins, he's the first Democrat to win re-election in 44 years?
Long time. I think it was Brendan Byrne was the last time. So it's been a while.
We'll see how this shakes out. Matthew Hale, thank you so much for walking us through this. This will be an interesting week in Jersey for sure.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Thank you again.